I was born in 1953 in Cambodia. My father was, at that time, was in industrial sector as well as service sector. But he was in banking, he was in industrial production, he was in sidérurgie, iron production, many activity which I even don't know myself. In the 60s, Cambodia was very nice and developed city. Actually, I remember went to Singapore and Hong Kong at that time. Singapore and Hong Kong is much less developed than Phnom Penh city at that time. Singapore was a village. Hong Kong, it was a little bit more than a village, but it's still not as developed as Cambodia. I was very surprised then, but things move, things change. Actually, many of my brother went abroad for study before the coup d'etat in 1970. Right? Then my father and my family, my sister and brother, went out slowly, also for study, but a bit difficult then after the coup because there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of complication. But we managed to get out. The family went out. All of our family went out, fortunately, and that's it. We were lucky, I think. 1967, I was in Paris, and the communication was not like today. You have internet. You only have fax. Not even fax. You have telegram and telephone, very expensive, and letter. So communication was not as frequent. The news I have is from my parents, and they don't want to tell me bad news. So let me study. So I study well without any we call critical information. And only by 1970 something that I was off the school, and then I know a little bit of life. Then I start to know what happened in Cambodia, and it was mess. The Pol Pot, the regime, and so on. I mean, the whole world know about it now, but at that time not. And I was personally, I was lucky because I was planned to come back in 1976 when there's a group of students that fly back to Cambodia wanting to help Cambodia. At that time, when you're young, you always want to do something quite adventure, and you dare to take risks. And Cambodia was my country at that time, so I want to come back. But fortunately, some friends say, let them go back first and see. So they came back and they never gave me a news. So I know they were killed by the Khmer Rouge. In 1993, when the United Nations came and then announced the world that Cambodia is peace now, I was asked by any friend in the government side to come back to help develop Cambodia. And then 1995, I start the we call textile and garment, because for the first 2 years I was looking at what area was the best for Cambodia. During that time I run the bank. So the best sector is garment, textile. So with our networking and my experience, I have able to bring a lot of investor coming to Cambodia. The business is like a virgin white paper, and with the government at that time, that was very helpful, listening very much to my advice, and they are very pro-business. They have able to develop the relationship that need in the international trade. We went to Europe, we went to America to develop that we call trade agreement, to build Cambodia name and reputation to have market access to those countries. And that was very successful because many countries gave a chance to Cambodia because United Nations was there. So we developed very fast, and the industry moved. Every week we have every factory investor coming to invest in Cambodia every 3 days. 2 days you have one factory coming in. So there's such a tremendous growth, and we have even difficulty to train personnel because at that time there's no worker, there's countryside people. We call paysans, agriculture people who has no knowledge of what is industrial working for 8 hours. They cannot work for more than 2 hours. They have to stop for a while. So the education, mentality, and training need to be put and do for the worker to become an industrial worker. That was very challenging at the time, and we succeed because Cambodia people are eager to learn after the regime, and are very we call positive and very open to new training, to new concept, and that is the advantage and the competitiveness of Cambodia at that time. But then we are able also to produce a quality goods, deliver on time, so that the public in United States and Europe can test, can use our product made in Cambodia. And that was positive because we did do a good product. We did deliver, and the market has absorbed. So I would say it was not totally peaceful until 2000 maybe, right? So that short period of time, Cambodia has been able to develop to that standard. I think it's marvelous in regard to the context where no human resource available in Cambodia. Going forward, the lack of investment in human resource, in education, is what I am concerned for the future. So joining ASEAN now, it will be very challenging for Cambodia. So, but the positive side, we can bring in human resources from abroad to Cambodia. So we must prepare for that. Openness for bringing skilled labor, professional people to help Cambodia develop our economy. We must not be too nationalist in that regard. Otherwise, our country will be unable to move faster than other countries. People are now using more technology, computer, cashier system. All this now is very well adapted, and also old generation entrepreneur accept to allow their manager to run, and also to give them some responsibility. That is moving forward. It's learning process. It takes time. But then I have told you the lack of human resources impede that growth, delay that process. For a Cambodian entrepreneur who, for example, need to employ manager, need to employ technician, if they cannot find it in Cambodia, it will be difficult for them to move to new management system. So it's all connected. That's why I say, allow foreigner to come in, allow foreigner skilled labor, allow foreign technician, allow foreign high-tech to come in, so that the Cambodian entrepreneur can employ them to make their enterprise more efficient and more competitive to the international standard. Agriculture is very important in the future. Cambodia has that advantage of huge land availability and fertile land. You don't need too many chemicals. That brings Cambodia to a very attractive investment for agriculture product. And Cambodia should do that. Is doing that. Develop the agriculture business in Cambodia. Main focus. Cambodia market is small, okay? So we need to export. Open factory to supply for local market is a bit dangerous because the market is about 15 million consumer. You have to look at 650 million of ASEAN. So you need export. You need to transport. And that is very important for any factory to survive in Cambodia. So if we bring factory like spare part, like home appliance, the market here is small, but you can export to Thailand, to Vietnam at very competitive price because we have huge land availability, and now our worker is less expensive, and the condition of business in Cambodia is much less bureaucratic than Vietnam and Thailand, and even sometimes less headache, less license to apply. Short term, I would say the government must invest in infrastructure, logistics. That also is one of the competitive advantage of Cambodia, because Cambodia is in the middle of ASEAN. So the trade between Thailand and Vietnam, or from North China to the south of Asia, will pass through Cambodia. And if we can grab this opportunity by improving logistics and infrastructure, road, rail transport, air transport will be beneficial to Cambodia.